40 Knife in the Heart Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish.
Hi everybody, in today's video I have a very kind of gory sort of knife that stabs into a heart, and it's a realistic style heart. It still has kind of a cartoony vibe, but it's got, you know, the ventricles and atriums and veins and arteries and all that great stuff. So I love this. I love the fact that you can kind of stab the knife into the heart over and over, which if you need a stress release is a great little thing to do. So it's a lot of fun. I hope you guys like it as much as I do, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well. Say bye, Melody.
I'm going to begin by applying an overlay of a pearly white acrylic over the entire nail. And I always like to mention why I pick the colors that I choose, and the reason I went with a pearly white background for this is because, as kind of brutal as this design is, I wanted to do something to sort of make it a tad more girly and a little bit more feminine, just so that it lends itself to being worn by a woman who'd want a long, graceful nail such as this long coffin. So that's where the pearly white came from here. I absolutely love that color. It's one of my favorite backgrounds anyway. Then I'm going to encase the nail with a layer of clear acrylic to make sure it is nice and strong and all of that fun stuff. And that also makes it so that you have enough space to create a groove for where the wire of the knife is. And that will all make sense in a moment because you'll see what I mean by groove and wire and all of that jazz. So having this nail slightly thicker than you may normally sculpt your nails is a tad advantageous in this particular design. Just have a little bit more acrylic on there, especially right in that apex middle of the nail zone. Super helpful. So after you have that nail encased, go ahead and file it into shape with your e-file. I started out with a coarse bit to remove any bulk and just go across all of it. That being said, like I just mentioned, if this nail tends to be a little thicker than some of your others, or you would typically sculpt them, not a bad idea. So don't over-file it. Then take a finer bit and just sort of buff over the top of it to smooth everything out. And after you have that done, then we're going to take your e-file with a very narrow bit and create a groove that goes from the cuticle to about 2/3 the way down your nail. So if you're doing this on actual person, be very cautious when you're doing this as to not file into their nail bed. Just keep that in the back of your mind that you don't want to hurt your client. But then I'm going to take a small piece of wire and I'm going to bend one side of it at a 90-degree angle. So just bend it like that, nice little square. And then I'm going to glue that end, the squared side, to the very top of my groove. So just hold that in place. Hold that glue. It's kind of tedious to hold the glue, but it's okay. And then string a bead onto your little piece of wire. Cut off any extra wire if there is any. So mine was just a little bit longer. So you want it to be ever so slightly longer than your groove. And I'm using a pair of very useless fingernail clippers to try to do that, and that's why I was having issues. But then glue that other end of the wire down, secure both ends with a tiny bit of clear acrylic, and then that you can just set aside, and we're going to start working on the little area that we will put this knife in. So on an eyedropper, create a little cap with some clear builder gel, so you're making a half circle on the end of the eyedropper. After the clear builder gel is set, you're going to want to apply some gel sealer to the inside and outside, curing that again, and then I'm going to glue my little half circle dome shape on top of the base of the nail, or the tip of the nail. So just glue that down, hold it until it sets up, and then you can move on with your life. I'm going to secure it with some clear acrylic around all the sides. You don't need to necessarily make it waterproof or airtight or whatever you want to call it. You just want to make sure it's not going to fall off the nail. So just secure it on the sides with a little bit of that. And then I'm going to be taking some red acrylic and I'm going to cover up the entire thing just to make it a little bit more heart-like. So just cap the whole thing with some red, like so. Carry it down the bottom. Make it look as neat as possible, so it's not so rough looking on the edges, if you want to call it that. And then with blue acrylic, I'm going to be sculpting first my arteries on the nail form backing. So I would recommend having, unless you are a heart surgeon or a cardiologist and you just know exactly what all the different ventricles and atriums and arteries and all of this great stuff with a heart is, have a picture next to you so that you know what you're doing. Because even if you wouldn't necessarily know what it is off the top of your head, you might be able to look at a heart and say that just looks wrong. So either look at mine while you're working on it or have a picture next to you. And if you want to know what I searched to get my photo for this particular element of this design, is I Googled human heart clip art. That's what I said. And you can get so many pictures that are so very helpful. So then after that, I'm going to be sculpting my aorta up and over the top of my arteries just like that, create the little knobs coming off of it. Like I said, I'm not a cardiologist, so I had to have a picture. But then I'm going to take and just kind of bring that down. You don't have to do any more of the heart. Just do this beginning little start of it. And after you have that beginning little start of it done, then you're going to be gluing it on and you can work on it the rest of the way. So you just want to have sort of a base done for this area of your heart, because this part is going to stick up beyond that little half dome shape we already made on the nail. So like I said, then we're going to pick it up, and we can pick it up off the nail form backing. If you have a gloved hand, you can go ahead and use some assistance from your gloved hand. But then I'm going to pick it up and set it on the nail so that it goes right up and it kind of floats up above the top of that little half dome we made. And I'm going to finish rounding out my heart with the ventricles and the atriums. And with, again, a red acrylic, I'm going to be adding all of that fun stuff. And really, this part is a little less detailed than that first area, so as long as that top area looks like it's right, the rest of it should be able to work out with not as much effort. Just continue that. Make it really thick, make it very 3D. You want it to look like it could start pumping at any moment, because that just adds to the kind of creepiness of this whole design. This is another design that I know I mentioned this for yesterday's video with the decapitation, that Terrell, my husband, was like, why do you do these things? But I enjoy them, so that's why I do them. And then I'm going to be applying a layer of gel sealer over the background to make that pearly white really nice and pearly and super shiny. And after that's applied, cure it. And then after it has been cured, then we're going to be sculpting our knife. So now I'm going to take, with silver acrylic, I'm going to make the blade of my knife. And every year I try to come up with something knife related for Halloween, because I absolutely love sculpting knives. And it's going to sound so silly, but it's so, with having this nice silver acrylic, it's so simple and it's so effective. I love the way that they turn out, so I always try to think about a design that I could possibly use a knife for. And I have a couple in the past, like I said, I do it every year, and I'll put links to those in the description box below. Last year I have a nail that is essentially the 3D version of this one, so if you guys really like this nail, but you're thinking to yourself, how could I do that without it being 4D? If you want to be a bit more wearable, I certainly have one that fits that bill from a year ago, and I will put that link in the description box. So if you are looking for it, I can help you out there. After I have my silver blade, I'm going to be adding with brown the handle of my knife. And after I have that done, I'm going to take clear acrylic and flip it over and just thicken up the backside of it so it's not so thin and delicate. Then I'm going to glue the knife to the bead that is on the wire in the nail. So just take a tiny bit of nail glue and then hold that down. Be very cautious when you're doing this so that you don't glue the knife to the nail or the bead to the nail or anything. You want everything to stay very mobile. Now I'm going to take some black paint that is slightly diluted here and there just to add some outlines around my heart. And nothing too crazy. I don't want to over outline it so it looks too cartoony. I wanted to keep it not necessarily realistic, but have a bit more realism than if it were super outlined. Add some highlights to the arteries with a lighter shade of blue. And then you're going to want to take a brighter shade of red where you can and add highlights to make it look like it is super bloody and like it could just start gushing here and there. So a very bright red will definitely do the job there. So add all of that nice red here and there. Add some on all the different sections. You don't want to just paint over the entire thing with red. You want it to still have the lowlights and the highlights, but definitely add some. And then I'm going to take a pink and I'm going to add a couple highlights within my highlights, and then add a couple little veins going right through across the front of the heart, kind of wrapping around it. And I did that with some nice gold paint. And also with the gold paint, I added a couple little spots on the handle of my knife. Then I'm going to be applying gel sealer over my heart to make it look nice and shiny, and also over my knife. If you need to use something to hold it in place, a bit of poster putty is very helpful. And that's it. After that's cured, it is all done. Like I said, this nail is a great way to relieve some stress if you, I don't know, if you're having an issue with your boss or your spouse or your kids or whatever, and you just feel like you need to stab something, this is a much better option than a human. So I hope you guys liked as much as I do, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!